Welcome to the Bucky Brooks Show. I am Bucky Brooks, and this show is put on by FanDuel Sportsbook. Get all your things. Make sure you check it out. Make sure if you're playing the game, play the game. FanDuel Sportsbook is the best place to go and do it. If I could, I would, but I'm supporting you and encouraging you to go check that out. Today on the show, I want to talk all things kind of related to the Jaguars, but I want to talk about some NFL topics. Mac Jones is the hottest thing going. A.J. Brown's problems in Philly. Jackson Dart, what can he do for an encore? But really the biggest thing to talk about would be the Jacksonville Jaguars taking on the Kansas City Chiefs and the bank next Monday night. Let's make sure we preview that and talk about how the Jaguars can get a win that would be a marquee win, a signature win as they get knee deep into the 2025 season. But before we talk about 2025, we got to talk about their quarterback from 2024, Mac Jones, who is now putting on for the city of San Francisco. And he's not only creating a bit of a quarterback controversy in San Francisco, he's setting himself up for a major payday as he's kind of following the blueprint that Daniel Jones used to get to Indianapolis and also set himself up for a major payday. Mac Jones, Thursday night, lit it up. Career performance, completed 33 of 49 passes, 342 yards, 2 touchdowns, passer rating over 100, and knocking off the Rams in an overtime thriller. In doing that, Mac Jones is now 3-0 for the San Francisco 49ers. He's completing 66% of his passes, 905 yards, 6 touchdowns, 1 interception, and that passer rating, 99.1. Mac Jones is a former first-round pick. We saw Mac Jones last year in Jacksonville, and the guy that's playing in San Francisco is not the same guy that showed up and played in Jacksonville. And I get a bunch of questions about why is this version of Mac Jones so different than the version that we saw in Jacksonville. And the way that I can best explain it, Mac Jones, like so many other quarterbacks in this league, is a system quarterback. And when you put him in the right system, Mac Jones can play at a Pro Bowl level. What we have right now is the perfect marriage between play caller and player. Kyle Shanahan has put together a system that perfectly matches what Mac Jones does well. Let's talk about what Mac Jones does well. Mac Jones is a classic pocket passer. Mac Jones is a high IQ quarterback who, if given a lot of information at the line, he can decipher it, diagnose it, get your team in the right play, but more importantly, make the right decisions. Mac Jones, when he's at his best and he's playing within his limitations, look, man, he's the perfect point guard, distributing the ball to a bunch of playmakers that really do the dirty work for him. When he's at his worst, he'll try to be something that he's not. He'll try and push the envelope as a playmaker, try and fit the ball into tight windows, and that's when bad Mac Jones delivers a lot of turnovers. Last year, we saw that in Jacksonville, where he had 8 touchdowns, 8 interception, passer rating of 80.5, and he couldn't help the Jaguars get into the postseason after Trevor Lawrence's injury. You put him in San Francisco with a play caller who has always wanted him. Because remember, the news coming out of San Francisco is that Kyle Shanahan preferred Mac Jones over Trey Lance. He got talked into taking Trey Lance in the 2021 draft when he really wanted Mac Jones to be his quarterback. We're now seeing why Kyle Shanahan liked Mac Jones over the others that were on the board. When you look at it, Kyle Shanahan always wants a quarterback that basically can act as the joystick as he's playing the video game that we call the National Football League. He is a guy who kind of has a beautiful mind when it comes to being able to see the game play out, and he needs a quarterback that can match his vision, meaning the same things that Kyle Shanahan sees on the sideline, he needs a quarterback that is in the foxhole being able to see those same things. Part of the reason he got frustrated with Jimmy Garoppolo and some of the other quarterbacks that the Niners have had is because he could dial up the perfect shot, but the quarterback couldn't see it or didn't have the courage to deliver it. Mac Jones doesn't lack for any of that. Anyone around the building in Jacksonville will tell you that, like, beneath kind of like the button-up personality that Mac Jones presents is a super swaggy guy who kind of has a little edge and a cockiness to him that can be endearing to people that prefer that personality. Given Kyle Shanahan's snarkiness, some of that competitive arrogance that he displays, Mac Jones and him are a perfect fit. What I'm seeing when I look at Mac Jones on the sideline interact with his teammates, they're fully bought in the authentic version of Mac Jones that, look, likes hip hop, likes to dance around, likes to boogie a little bit after he makes plays, and look, believes when he's on the field that he's the baddest dude on the block. The Niners have given him the freedom to do what he does in terms of his personality and playing style while surrounding him not only with the right scheme, but the right playmakers to play it out. The reason why this works for Mac Jones and for the Niners is because with Brock Purdy hurt, maybe the Niners have stumbled into an upgrade in terms of a player in Mac Jones. The problem is you just paid Brock Purdy, so you can't move on from Brock Purdy and make Mac Jones the starting quarterback. But what Mac Jones has done is he set himself up to now be the apple of one of Shanahan's disciples' eyes next season. When you think about Daniel Jones spending the year with Kevin O'Connell in Minnesota shortly after he was let go by the Giants, learning the system, being able to get taught those things that allow those quarterbacks to be effective. He now has a mouthpiece in Kevin O'Connell who can speak for him, how he prepares, how he performed in practice, what he would look like in a game, and those things. Well, Kyle Shanahan can bless Mac Jones in the same vein. When we think about the league and we think about where the next wave of coaches are coming from, they typically come from the McVay tree or the Shanahan tree. Well, Mac Jones has set himself up to be the beneficiary of making a smart decision in the offseason. I love it. Kudos to Mac Jones. Next up, A.J. Brown, Philadelphia. So here's what's funny about the Philadelphia Eagles. 4-0 start. They've won 20 out of their last 21 games. They're Super Bowl champion, look like they're on their way to maybe being back-to-back champs. Everything is rolling for this team. They're winning in spite of not playing their best. They've been outgained in all 4 games this season. They've only outscored their opponents by 20 points, but here they are 4-0, and the Eagles and the Bills, only undefeated teams in the league. You would think that a team that is undefeated, a team that is winning at that clip, would not have any problems. That winning masks everything. That's what we've always been taught. That's what I thought as a player, that winning cures all. But what we're seeing is A.J. Brown feeling underappreciated for his role and what he could bring to the table as one of the top 5 receivers in the league and a captain for the Eagles. I understand it, having played wide receiver in college and for the first part of my pro career. I understand what A.J. Brown is feeling and what he's expressing when he feels like he's not being utilized to help the team. Even though the team is 4-0, you want to feel like you are a contributing member to the team. A.J. Brown can't feel like that because when he looks at his stat line, he has 14 receptions, he has 151 yards, he has 1 touchdown on 29 targets. And while we can say, hey, well, they're throwing it in his direction, there's a difference in them throwing it to you and you being a featured playmaker. And even though I'm sure he loves winning, he loves the fact that they're finding a way to get it done, he likes being a champion, man, you are not one of these guys that's an elite receiver and you never have an opportunity to show off your skills. Part of being great is understanding who you are and getting the respect of your peers because you put your excellence on display each week. He is not able to do that because the Eagles haven't operated like that on offense. Whether it's the offensive philosophy, whether it's the execution or lack of execution in the passing game, A.J. Brown is not being utilized enough. And so what you have is someone who in essence feels like every game day is a track meet where he's just doing wind sprints and not getting any reward for all of the effort and the work that he's putting in. Sure, the team is winning, but there's something about being a contributor as opposed to a beneficiary. He wants to help the team. He wants to be a big part of why they win. Sure, he understands the running game of Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts, and the best way for them to operate is to run it. But there's going to be a time where the Eagles need to throw it. And the only way you can get prepared to throw it is you got to throw it. This is on Nick Sirianni and those guys to kind of figure out that middle ground where they're serving the team, but also making sure that the best players are involved. When I was in Green Bay, Mike Holmgren was the coach. Mike Holmgren is a Super Bowl champion. Mike Holmgren was offense coordinator for the 49ers. With Bill Walsh, he had to also deal with Jerry Rice and John Taylor and Joe Montana and Steve Young and all these big egos. And one of the things that I learned from him when I was a player, watching him handle these things in Green Bay, on his call sheet, he always had a thing that was get the ball to, and it was a designated number. So in A.J. Brown's case, there would be a little thing on the sheet that said get the ball to number 11. And Gil Haskell, who's the wide receiver coach, would periodically tell him, hey, it's been 2 drives since X has touched the ball. Let's make sure we get him a ball out there. The Eagles need to operate in a similar vein to make sure that A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith are regularly included in the play calling in the offense. It doesn't mean that you have to deviate like widely outside of the way that you want to go, but it's a reminder that, hey, I need to keep these guys engaged, because if we get in a dogfight and we need them in the fourth quarter, I can't go 3 quarters without throwing it to them. And then in the fourth quarter, I clap my hands and say, hey, AJ, we need you to go get this. Some people can say it's diva-like behavior or whatever, but what I'm telling you is that's a realistic show of emotion when A.J. Brown talks about not being involved. Also notice, Devontae Smith has been very quiet. When he's quiet, I mean, he's also not happy with his role and how he's not touching it. To me, this is very simple. Nick Sirianni needs to make sure that he talks to the offensive coordinator. Hey, let's make sure we keep those guys involved. Don't deviate from the run first game plan, but let's make sure we have some easy isolation routes where these guys can touch it. We won't completely appease them, but we can keep them involved in the event that a tight game breaks out. When we need A.J. Brown and even Devontae Smith, the only way to get them going is to get them going early in the game. So let's make sure that the ball heads in their direction as they get it going. And speaking of getting it going, FanDuel Sportsbook has it going with A.J. Brown, where they have the over-under on his receiving yards for this weekend at 57.5. And the odds are minus 114. Now, I would tell you, someone who has 151 receiving yards in 4 games, 57.5 could be a lot. But I got a sneaky suspicion that the squeaky wheel gets the grease. I think A.J. Brown gets that number, and I think he gets it because they force feed him to make sure he's happy and to make sure that the chemistry amongst the team is good. Last thing, these problems that the Philadelphia Eagles are having are common amongst winning teams. They call it the disease of me, because everybody feels like their importance matters more than the team. Nick Sirianni has to be in front of this. He has to be very open and honest when it comes to the roles and specifying the roles and outlining the expectations and how these things are going to get done. They want to get ahead of this, because if you don't address it and cut it off early, it becomes a bigger issue later, and it can derail what appears to be a really good thing that's going in Philly. Well, if we're going to talk about the Eagles, we got to talk about one of their biggest rivals, the New York Giants. And if you've been following the Giants, you know that the swaggiest quarterback in the league right now might be Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart, coming from Ole Miss, joining the Giants, giving them a Josh Allen light player. That's exactly what Brian Daboll wanted, and that is why he made the move for Jackson Dart to be the starting quarterback. What I enjoy about Jackson Dart is, man, the swag is real. The post-game celebration where he talked to the team, that's real. That's authentic. I see why the team rallied around him and why they wanted his energy and electricity to be a big part of how they get down and how they're moving forward. After that debut, though, now the tape is out. And even though I can say I love the energy, I love the electricity that he brought, he is going to need to be more efficient for this team to win with him at quarterback. 111 passing yards, okay. 54 rushing yards and a touchdown, okay. But now the tape circulates. People understand what you're doing. RPOs, design quarterback runs, the isolation throws, cool. First thing that the next opponent, the New Orleans Saints, are going to do, they're going to snuff that out. In the encore, where Jackson Dart feels like it's personal because he has a chip on his shoulder because the Saints didn't make a move to get him, even though he felt like their meetings were good, he has to bring it because the Saints are certainly going to bring it against him. How does this play out? Well, now it's different because Malik Nabers is no longer in the picture. And even though you talk about Jalen Hyatt maybe taking over some of that role and some of these other guys having more opportunities, nobody on that roster is like Malik Neighbors. Malik Neighbors is a true number one. Without a number one, this is going to need to be a collaborative effort, not only amongst the receivers that are kind of sharing the load, but how is Brian Daboll going to configure this offense to make sure that Jackson Dart not only has the easy throws, but he has throws that have big play potential? This is one where Brian Daboll is going to have to be in his bag to help Jackson Dart take the next step. I will say this. The next game should be a better game for Dart in terms of the comfortability, but it could be a more difficult game in terms of the effectiveness and the efficiency, because now the book is out on him. Now, one game doesn't make a season, and one game doesn't mean that everyone's going to have the answers to what he does and how he likes to play, but it does mean he's going to have to bring his A game to build upon what he did in the debut. Regardless, I am one that's excited to watch it, because the one thing that he brings energy. And the other thing that I saw, the players always let you know who they rock with. The Giants players were rocking with Jackson Dart long before Brian Daboll made the decision to name him QB1. And because of that, it bodes well for the Giants to continue to win with the young guy at quarterback. Now let's get to the big part of it. Oh, before we get to it, Jackson Dart, FanDuel Sportsbook. The over-under is at 175.5 passing yards. The number is minus 114 on that bet. 175 is a lot, because I saw the 111. It wasn't pretty. Getting to 200 yards, could be a tall task, because you need to be able to run the football, and because you don't have Malik Neighbors. I think this is tougher for Jackson Dart. May play better, but those numbers, I don't know if he gets there. For me, I'm going to take the under. We'll see what it looks like when we get to it at the end of the weekend. Now, biggest game of the weekend, and I'll say this is personal. Jacksonville Jaguars invite the Kansas City Chiefs to the bank for Monday Night Football. This is a huge game, because the Jacksonville Jaguars are suddenly sitting at 3-1. Kansas City Chiefs are a team that are the title contenders. Kansas City Chiefs have been, 5 out of the last 6 Super Bowls. They're a 3-time champion during that period. They're the team that are kind of the standard bearer, not only in the AFC, but league-wide. And because they're the perennial heavyweight, this is a measuring stick game for the Jacksonville Jaguars. How they stack up against the Chiefs, how they handle the mystique of the logo, and more importantly, how they handle the boogeyman, Patrick Mahomes, will speak to how much this team can accomplish this year. Now, I'll say this. The Jaguars are coming fully loaded into the game, because their defense is lights out. Lead the league in turnovers. They have 13 in 4 games. Every game they participated in, they've had at least 3. They do a great job of turning that turnover obsession into big plays, splash plays, game-changing plays. And one of the reasons they've been able to do it is because Anthony Campanile has implemented a zone-based scheme that is a see ball, get ball scheme that has some zone dogs and some pressures and those things, but they're playing a lot of zone. They're keeping the ball in front of the defense, and they are feasting off of tips and overthrows and what I call the designated Mike Tyson knockouts. They are punching the ball out like a heavyweight champ. And so if you're not tight and secure with your ball handling, you're going to lose it. And if you are a quarterback that is impatient, that lacks the discipline to take the check down, you are going to throw the ball down the field. It's going to be tipped. It's going to be overthrown. It's going to land in the hands of a Jaguars defender. I'm telling you, I've sat on the sideline for the first 4 weeks of the season, and it's like clockwork. Quarterback gets tired of taking a check down. He tries to force one up the field, and lo and behold, somebody shows up. Dewey Wingert, Jordan Lewis, Devin Lloyd, whatever it is, the Jaguars are betting that your patience is not sustainable, and your desire to produce a big play is going to lead you to make a throw that is a hero throw that lands in their hands. It plays out like this each and every week, and it played out like that for Brock Purdy, who normally doesn't turn the ball over a lot. It played out in San Francisco. The problem that you have this week is Pat Mahomes has been terrific this week. Only 1 turnover all year. He's done a great job of painting within the lines, making sure that he takes the ding and dunk game, making sure that he plays half-court basketball in spite of his desire to want to go fast break. He's able to do that now more than ever because the return of Xavier Worthy has changed how the Kansas City Chiefs can operate. Last week, you saw the change. I mean, they had season highs in everything: points, first down, passing yards, any category that you can think about. They were the best in offensively because Xavier Worthy came back. Xavier Worthy makes an impact as the NFL's fastest man, 4.21 second 40-yard dash. You have to be aware of his whereabouts at all times. He is the rare guy in this offense where they're utilizing him not only vertical on deep shots down the field, but horizontally on fly sweeps, crossing routes, and those things. Andy Reid is also moving him around the formation so you can't set your defense, cloud him, double him, bracket him, because you never know where he's going to end up. What that has done is that has opened up the field for the rest of the offense, and it should loosen up not only the plays that go to Juju Smith-Schuster and Travis Kelce and some of their other wide receivers, but potentially it can open up the running game with Isaiah Pacheco. The thing that you have to do if you're the Jacksonville Jaguars is, number one, coming into the game, you have to have an eye for where Xavier Worthy is at all time. And you have to make sure that the safety is the deepest of the deepest in those moments, and he leans his direction because the other guys are not as fast. They're not as impactful when it comes to their vertical speed. So you want to lean and nod towards Xavier Worthy. Second thing you want to do is you want to crush the running game at every turn. Isaiah Pacheco is a solid back. Isaiah Pacheco is not an elite back, but you still can't let him get loose. If you allow Isaiah Pacheco to be a major factor, now the Chiefs are able to dictate the terms offensively, and they are able to force you out of some of those too high looks, single high coverage. That is where Xavier Worthy gets loose. That's where Travis Kelce finds a hole on one of those freelance routes and those things. The trick is, how can you play maximum coverage while also being able to shut down the run? To me, that's the deciding factor for the Jaguars. Can they stop the run without compromising what they want to do in coverage? The other part of that strategy is, how do you account for Patrick Mahomes in these games? And Patrick Mahomes has been their leading rusher. And part of the reason he is able to be the leading rusher is because he picks and chooses when to run and what I call these gotta have it moments. Third down situations, red zone situations, end of game, or all hell breaks loose. Pat Mahomes is going to make a play. He's going to leave the pocket. He's either going to extend the play or he's going to scramble, scoot, and try and bait you into a late hit penalty by tiptoeing down the sideline, then jumping out of bounds late. So you have to be aware of all those things if you're the Jags. You also have to be aware of your rush lanes and make sure that you don't rush past the depth of the drop to create a backdoor where you can scoot through. That's how you operate if you're the Jags defense against the Kansas City Chiefs offense. The bigger part of the equation and whether the Jags win this game, it comes down to Trevor Lawrence. Back in the day when I played in Kansas City, we used to sit in the defensive meeting room, and Gunther Cunningham, the late Gunther Cunningham, the defensive coordinator, would hand out what we called the big sombrero, big old sombrero. And so the player who had the big matchup for the week had to wear the big sombrero. If I'm Liam Cohen and we operated with the big sombrero, Trevor Lawrence has to wear the big sombrero this week. And the reason why Trevor Lawrence gets the big sombrero is because Steve Spagnuolo is notorious for bringing pressure from all over the field. He is going to stop the run with pressure, and he is going to make this game where Trevor Lawrence has to throw into the teeth of the defense, a defense that's going to play a lot of cover zero, meaning all-out blitz, max blitz, one-on-ones on the outside, and he is going to see if Trevor Lawrence not only has the courage, but does he have the effectiveness to be able to deliver accurate balls under duress. If he can, the Jaguars win, and the game will not be as close as people think. If he can't, then it could be a big turnover game where he makes some mistakes and the ball lands in the hands of the Chiefs. This is what the Chiefs do, and this is what they've traditionally done. They're going to dial up the pressure, and they're going to squeeze the pocket with multiple defenders to see if the quarterback can handle the weight of having to deliver with so many bodies around him and in his face. How Trevor Lawrence responds to this tactic will determine whether the Jaguars win or lose. Yeah, there are other factors that you have to account for, but really, This game is number 16 against Steve Spagnuolo. And if he is able to wear the big sombrero and deliver a great game against one of the best defensive coordinators in ball, the Jaguars walk out of the bank with a win, and Duval parties like it's 1999. But the trick is number 16 has to play at his best for this team to do it. I'm excited to see it because the world is looking, the world will have an opportunity to not only be reintroduced to the Jags, but they'll have an opportunity to see if Trevor Lawrence is going to be what many thought he would be when he entered the league. That's not more pressure. That's the reality. And that is the reality when you pay your quarterback $50 million in these games, you have to deliver. This is a game about deliverance. We'll get a chance to see if Trevor Lawrence can deliver. That's the Bucky Brooks Show. I am Bucky Brooks, and I enjoy always chatting with you guys and talking about the latest things that are going on in the league. And one of the things that is going on personally is Delete Me. If you're a person who is extremely private, Delete Me makes it quick, easy, and safe to remove your personal data online at a time when surveillance and data breaches are common enough to make everyone vulnerable. Data brokers make a profit off your data. Your data is a commodity. Anyone on the web can buy your private details. This can lead to identity theft, phishing attempts, harassment, but now you can protect your privacy with Delete Me. New York Times Wirecutter named Delete Me their top pick for data removal services. And I can tell you, as someone with a big online presence, privacy is important to me, which is why I am all about what Delete Me provides. Make sure when you have options that Delete Me is your thing. Take control of your data. Keep your private life private by signing up for Delete Me now at a special discount for our listeners. Get 20% off your Delete Me plan when you go to join deleteme.com/pro. Use promo code PRO at checkout. The only way to get 20% off is to go join deleteme.com/pro. Enter code PRO at checkout. That's join deleteme.com/pro, code PRO. And so don't delete yourself. Make sure you do all those things, but make sure you come back next time for the Bucky Brooks Show. I'm excited about week 5 and what is to take place. Make sure you check out all my colleagues on the Bleav Network. Things are really cool. And on this YouTube channel, make sure you rate, review, subscribe to the podcast where you get all your podcasts. Until next time, I'm Bucky Brooks, and I will talk to you soon.